I'm Kerenza from KerenzaMarsh.com, and I'm here today with Elwin Robinson. Elwin is the author of The Easy Exhaustion Cure. He's the founder of LionHeartHerbs.com, and he's also the creator of the Health Mastery Program. So I'm thrilled to have you with me.
Thank you so much, Kerenza. It's a great joy to be interviewed by you again.
Yes, indeed. Well, today I've found quite a lot of the time I want to talk about passion today.
Excellent.
And kind of keeping enthusiasm in your life, because I find that often you read something or you learn about something and you get really inspired, and for me, I get totally overcome with passion and joy about it. And then after a couple of weeks or a month, it kind of wanes and life kind of grinds me down, is how I feel. And I'm just wondering how I can kind of keep that.
How to keep the passion and enthusiasm and joy and whatever it is that you're passionate, enthusiastic and joyful about.
Yeah, every day, no matter what happens.
Yeah, it's quite a tricky one. I mean, there's a couple of aspects to it. There's the whole body aspect to it, which is if your body is not healthy, if it's not creating the right neurotransmitters and hormones and all that kind of complicated stuff, then you literally don't have the fuel or the building blocks to be enthusiastic every day. So you could do all the positive thinking in the world and, get into all kinds of philosophy or try and pump yourself up every day, and you're just not going to be able to do it. You're going to get bored, you're going to get listless, you're going to feel your energy drop. But even if you have got your body sorted out and you're doing everything you need for your body, if you're not also doing the right things with your mind, then again your enthusiasm can easily wane and you can easily get bored and you can easily get despondent and lose interest in what you're doing. So I'd say you really need to master both of those areas of your life. You need to master how you focus your mind and what you focus your mind on, and you need to master the health of your body and the energy levels of your body.
Yes, okay, yeah, because quite often I do one or I do the other, and because I'm not doing both at the same time, that's what lets me down, so that makes a lot of sense. Excellent, okay.
Now, the tricky thing becomes, how do you do both? How do you maintain the enthusiasm, joy and passion to raise the health and energy of your body and to learn how to focus your mind when you need to have the enthusiasm to do that in the first place? And of course that's the tricky thing.
Okay, yes, absolutely, absolutely. So what would you recommend for that?
Well, I recommend starting with the body.
Okay.
Always starting with the body. So the body is like the foundation or the building block where everything else is built on. So I have had a few clients, I have to be honest, who do absolutely everything they need to for their body and they're still lacking in joy, passion, enthusiasm. And that does happen. And then I'll get them onto kind of mind mastery kind of stuff, emotional mastery, and that will be the thing that really makes the difference, and suddenly their life goes from depressed to awesome in their own words. But usually just healing the body is actually enough, and I know that was, from my own personal perspective, that was enough as well. I used to be, as you remember, Kerenza, because you were there, miserable and depressed and angry most of the time. I'm not that way anymore.
No, far from it, yeah.
It's too positive was the way you described me recently, right? So
yeah, that has been said.
Yeah, so it's quite a turnaround. And I know that I used to focus on spiritual stuff a lot, and like mastering the mind and various exercises like yoga or qigong, not just like stretching yoga, but yoga to focus the mind and meditation, all that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And it didn't make that much difference, did it?
No.
It was like
I always use, you're too much in your head, you need to get in your body.
Yeah, absolutely, and that was really the thing that was lacking. So when I did actually, and even being in the body, so I did some kind of exercises and that sort of thing for many years, but that wasn't enough as well. It wasn't just bodily awareness, it was really getting the body healthy again. And to me that's a 3-step process. That's getting the body's energy up first, then getting all the body's toxicity and blockages, whether they be energy blockages or toxic blockages or anything else, out, and then lastly balancing the body systems. And I say them in that order because I think that it is really important to do it in that order. And I won't talk about that too much today because there's already many other videos and programs and books and all the rest of it that I've done on that subject. But doing that first, and what I found was after I started doing that stuff and it was really working, then I was open to all the positive stuff. And I remember when I started doing more food stuff, I came across David Wolf's book, the Sun Food Diet Success System, which is like a combination of success psychology with a kind of diet and nutrition approach. And I was really open to it, and it actually seemed to make sense. I remember showing it to you and going, "This is amazing, right?"
Yeah,
and you
I got halfway
through it. You did, yeah. And he recommended someone called Anthony Robbins, and I started listening to Anthony Robbins. And Anthony Robbins really turned my life around when it came to passion, enthusiasm, and all the rest of it. And I still rate him as one of the best in the world, and I highly encourage you to seek him out on that subject. But what I realised was, if I hadn't have cleaned my body out first, if I hadn't have got my energy out first, I would have hated him. I wouldn't be able to listen to him at all.
That is what I found, because I've heard a lot of Anthony Robbins stuff, and I mean, he's fantastic, and he's so inspiring, so exciting. You're just like, wow, I get very swept up in these things. And then I try and share it with someone who's not quite, on the same kind of health level, I would say. And then I hate him. I can't bear to hear him, So I do know what you mean. It feels really grating to a lot of people, I think, that kind of just happiness and abundance of kind of joy and enthusiasm can be really grating when you haven't got any energy. And I totally get that. So, yeah, I agree, yeah.
And that level of confidence can be construed as arrogance or something bad, again, when you don't have that within yourself. And when you are low on energy, then it is hard to feel confident because you don't have much to be confident about. You are in quite a vulnerable position.
Yeah.
Anything could happen to you any moment. If you don't have an abundance of energy, you can't be 100% sure you're going to make it through. That's the truth of the matter from an evolutionary point of view, so that confidence is lacking. And one of the things that really resonated with me about Anthony Robbins is that his approach wasn't just about mastering the mind, he also talked about mastering your health. And said actually that's the foundation of doing everything, and mastering your emotions and your relationships, and like a complete system. And I'd say if you do look to people to encourage you and inspire you and infuse you in terms of what you do with your mind or any law of attraction type stuff, wherever it is, make sure that there are also people aware of how important the physical body is. Because even if a person has mastered their mind, if they're grotesquely overweight and I don't mean to be offensive, but if they're not a picture of health, then you can be sure that they're missing something.
Yeah.
That they're not giving you what you need. Now, obviously, I don't mean to be offensive to anyone, and I don't think that I'm the picture of health either, but I know that I've improved a hell of a lot compared to what I was before, and I suppose that's the minimum that you want to look for, is someone who is aware of the importance of health and has actually had real results themselves and has improved themselves significantly, and has helped other people to do the same.
Yeah.
So I'm kind of talking about going to other people for advice about inspiration and enthusiasm rather than us, and I guess that's because that's probably the first thing which I recommend on the mind level, is just to seek out influences, like input on the most simple level, that inspires and infuses you.
Okay.
I mean, it's really simple. It's almost like a bank account kind of system. So, everything that depresses you, makes you feel bad, makes you feel worse, makes you feel not enthusiastic, inspired and joyful, that's like spending money. And anything that leaves you feeling awesome and inspired and enthusiastic about life or what you're doing is like getting money. And if you want to have a lot of money, you need to get more money than you spend money.
Yeah.
And similarly, if you want to have enthusiasm, you want to have more of it coming in than going out. So your input all day from other people and your environment is negativity and pessimism and even nihilism, which is like the world is futile, everything is pointless, that kind of level of thing. If that's what's coming into you the majority of the day, and then if that's what's coming into you from your own thoughts, your own words in your own head, then it's like you're just draining away the enthusiasm you might have. So it's really a matter of changing your input. And even if you have, quite hard to control the voice in your head, but even if you can't do that, you can at least control the voices coming outside of your head. So listening to whatever it might be that infuses or inspires you, watching whatever it might be that infuses and inspires you, and even better, surrounding yourself with real life, honest to goodness people. Whether that's actually face to face like we have here, or on the phone, or whatever it might be, who inspire and infuse you.
That is really, really important. Yeah, I 100% agree. I did a video about how to stay raw a little while ago, and that was my fundamental thing about that as well. What inspired you to start was you read something, or you saw something, or you heard somebody's story. So just keep that up. Keep filling your life with that. So yeah, absolutely, totally get that.
Absolutely. And in this world, you know, because there's so much free information out there, like if you get bored by hearing the same thing, if like you've heard this interview 10 times now and you're like, I need something else to inspire and infuse me. You know, there's so much out there. There's so much just free on YouTube or on different sites. It doesn't even have to be information, I guess. Like even art, you know, like music, the most popular form of art in this day and age. Any music that makes you feel good. I must admit, like these days, I listen to some of the cheesiest, most like looked down on music in the world.
I do as well. It's really funny.
And why do I do it? Because it, you know, it's not cool, no, it's not hip, but it makes me feel good. It's kind of joyful, and whatever is joyful, whatever infuses me, makes me feel good. I'd say that's it. That's the winner. That's me on the right track. You know, it may be big and clever and smart, but if it leaves you feeling depressed at the end of it, whether it's a talk or whether it's a piece of music, it's probably not actually helping you. Now, just to qualify that, occasionally we do need a reality check. You know, there's no point sheltering ourselves from all the negativity and pain and suffering in the world. It's just we want to not focus on it. So maybe something like 10% of the time, a reality check, you know, be aware of all the negativity and, you know, all the problems and all the rest of it.
Deal with paying your bills.
Yeah, and your taxes. But even on a more global scale, okay, all the suffering in the world and all the rest of it, allow yourself to be aware of that, because if you completely cut yourself off from that, then you kind of lose your compassion.
Yeah,
and you start to, and you become delusional. You start to think, you know, the world is a lovely, fluffy place, and it's not for everyone. But on the other hand, focusing on that for the majority of the time doesn't help anyone in any way, ever. So then, taking your focus and changing your input so that it's more and more enthusiastic, positive, inspiring.
Yeah, okay, that makes a lot of sense. People say, like, the people that you surround yourself with are the people that you're going to become. So surround yourself with people who are successful, right? If you want to be that.
Exactly. In whatever area it is that you're focused on.
Yeah, sure.
So for you, I know Kerenza has been dancing for quite a while.
Yeah, so I had an awful lot of dancing friends. Facebook, full of dancing. This dance is going on, that dance is going on. Now it's raw food, so it's this is the juice I had this morning, this is the new recipe I've come up with, and it's great, you know, because they are real people, they are having their real experiences, and it's a way to kind of share and connect, even though it's via the computer. I still find it really helpful, because, you know, I'll check it in the morning, and it's like, oh, this person had this juice, and this person is going on this fast, and this person is doing this, and I think, wow, yeah, God, that's incredible. And sometimes I'll post videos or whatever, and that's like a real kick for me in, like, yeah, that's the direction I want to go. So it's nice to have that as a reminder.
Definitely.
For sure, yeah.
So we focus a lot about the input of like support, like literally someone infusing you. I want to take it to the next level now as well. So the next level of things is, rather than just people who are kind of happy and inspiring you, to really stay, I would say, passionate and enthusiastic about what you're doing, you actually need what is considered often to be the opposite of inspiration, and that's to be challenged.
Yeah, okay.
You know, so
explain this a little bit more.
Absolutely, because we as human beings, we're achievement creatures. You know, we're always trying to achieve more in whatever thing that we're focused on. We're trying to learn more, or we're trying to get more, or we're trying to be more, or we're trying to do more. So if we're in a particular area and we feel like, you know, we're okay with it, and we feel, ironically, this is the price of success. So with success, as soon as we feel like we succeeded with something and we're okay with it, then we kind of lose interest and we lose that passion. Often that passion, enthusiasm, inspiration is because we feel like a hunger or a need to get to the next level with it. Yeah. And as soon as we feel like we're at a high enough level, then that's it, we lose that passion, enthusiasm. So as much as we need to be kept positive about it, we also need to be challenged and, you know, made aware that, you know, that there's another level to get to yet.
Yeah.
And this is the benefit of coaching, you know, and coaching, the term comes from sports originally. You know, so the average, say, a football star or basketball star or whatever they might be, they are far, far better than probably anyone else living in their neighbourhood. You know, they're already at a really high level at that particular skill. So they have every reason in the world to say, I'm good enough. I could beat probably all of you lot put together, and then they lose their passion and enthusiasm for it, right?
Yeah.
So what the thing that they do to prevent that from happening is to have a coach. And a coach will be there reminding them, not only, you know, supporting them and saying, you know, good job, well done, but also reminding them, you still got somewhere to go. You know, you could be better, you could do better, you need to do better. Otherwise you're
all those other nations in the world.
Yeah, right, exactly.
Yeah, okay.
So it's not just someone to... I like to call it like the carrot and the stick, you know? You do need the carrot, that's the most... Especially when you're starting out in anything and when you're feeling a little bit unconfident, you need a reason to carry on, just like you said. But once you're actually good with something and you're doing okay with it, the main thing that you actually need as well is some form of challenge. You need some form of stick. You need someone to be there to encourage you to go to the next level of it and not to like rest on your laurels and become complacent.
Yeah, I think that's kind of a big chunk that I was missing. So yeah, I think you're absolutely right. I saw a video of Steve Jobs a little while ago, and in that he said, you know, he'd built this incredible company and it couldn't be better, you know, and then he got fired from it, and he's like, it's the best thing that ever happened to me, because I lost everything, and I could go in a creative direction that was just totally new, and he created Pixar animation studios, something like that, you know, and that's a massive company now, and a massive success. But if he hadn't have had that kind of push of where would he want to do now, he wouldn't have ever created it. So yeah, totally.
Yeah, and it's a pattern that you find for all people who are really exceptional in any area, because you know confidence comes from competence, and competence comes from experience, but experience usually comes from failure. You know, getting things wrong and again.
Yeah,
the people who are most successful in any area are normally people who failed most in any area, but they're the people who've kind of kept going. So I mean, this is just an attitude shift almost, isn't it? It's realising as much as we want to stay positive and we want to do, you know, well and get there and all the rest of it, every time you fail or every time something goes wrong, you need to frame it in a certain way. Are you familiar with what I'm talking about here, Kerenza? How would we frame the failure?
Well, interestingly, when I did that video about how to stay raw, was one of the things I said, like, because I used to go with an attitude of I have to be 100% raw, 100% of the time, or else I'm a failure and everything's gone wrong and the world's not worth living, and just fall into a heap, right? So instead of that, I took it, okay, now what I'm going to do is I'm going to start incorporating more living foods into my life. And with that attitude, I can't fail. You know, even if it's just a banana that day, that's fine. At least I've done it, right? So re-looking at, you know, kind of your attitude towards it really helped me.
Absolutely.
In that respect.
Yeah, setting up your criteria for what is success. So if I've done better than I did yesterday, even if it's not perfect, then I've been successful. Yesterday
I couldn't get out of bed, and today I managed to get out of bed, and we're off. Yeah.
And another important factor, I think, is to see any kind of so-called failure as actually a learning experience. That can be really hard to do in practice when, you know, especially if your ego is involved in what you were doing and then it's just basically gone wrong and you've lost something that's important for you. But there are always learning experiences. People talk a lot about how my path to where I am now has been pretty rapid compared to a lot of people, but I basically set that in motion during the time of my greatest failure, you know, when I had everything like going wrong for me and nothing was working. My business had gone bankrupt, I'd almost gone personally bankrupt, I'd lost pretty much everything in my personal life. I was living in a tiny attic where I could only stand up in the centre of the room, you know. I just had a major foot infection and, you know, it was a challenging time, but I remember also that my attitude to life was incredibly positive during that time. I remember walking along the street and thinking, wow, I feel amazing, how is this even possible? And I'd say that has got a lot to do with the health kind of aspect, like because I put so much into my health and work to keeping my health strong. And that brings us back to the start of the conversation, really. You need that energy as a backup, so that even if all your life circumstances don't feed into your idea of the way that things should be, if your energy is high, then you're going to be able to see it as a learning experience, or you're going to be able to see the so-called failure as an opportunity. While if your energy is really low, then you're going to feel devastated more than likely, unless your will and your commitment is exceptionally strong, stronger than most people.
Yeah, that makes sense. It's better to, you know, our body is our fundamental state, you know? It's the thing that we're in all the time and what takes up most of our time. So get that healthy and then you can focus on sorting out your business or your mindset or anything else. Makes sense, yeah. Okay, awesome. So are there any other kind of aspects that you haven't covered
Well, yeah, definitely. I guess another thing which is really important for this enthusiasm is generally we feel like, so other than looking at our input, you know, so looking at making sure our input is at the same time generally supportive but also when necessary challenging. There's also, so that's the stuff coming in, there's also, you know, how are we going out? That's the other thing to really look at. And I would say if our attitude to life is basically focused in our head and focused in our thoughts, then that's where enthusiasm doesn't lie, in this energy centre, in this space.
Yeah.
You know, our enthusiasm and our passion really lies in the heart.
Yeah.
And our drive and our determination to do things day in, day out, which is the other thing you asked me about, to keep going, that really lies in our gut. So it's a matter of really opening up those energy centres and becoming more aware of them. Now that sounds a little bit esoteric. The most simple way to start with that is just to become aware of your breathing. Something I talk a lot about, the health kind of portion of it, learning to breathe from the belly and just becoming aware of the breath, because the breath is in the body as opposed to in the head. So straight away you're becoming aware of this part of your body, and then learning to remember to become present. And present simply means no thoughts in here, aware of immediate external environment, you know, whether that be a beautiful scenery like we have here behind us, or even if it's like a really ugly grey cityscape, it doesn't matter. Just being present to whatever's in front of you energises and enthuses you. Obviously it's better if it's something which is beautiful and which makes you feel good, but any environment is better to be present to than to be stuck in memories of the past, projections of the future, or fantasies of some other world, which is where most of us spend most of our time. I remember reading in some book, I think it's called The Great Simulator, how you very rarely find a human being aware of their surroundings and what's going on around them at that present moment, and it's completely true, you know, and it's one of the things which keeps us low in energy and low in enthusiasm and inspiration. Because being enthusiastic and inspired, I would say another way of describing that is saying that you're in the flow.
Yeah, okay, yeah.
Being in the flow, everything just happens. You don't have to think about it, you don't have to try and control it or make it happen. It just happens.
And it works, and synchronicities come up, and it's like, oh, yeah.
Absolutely.
Totally. Yeah.
And being in the flow starts with presence. It starts with being present to whatever's going on around you, and then it carries on with having a clear goal, I think, usually, and then allowing, and then surrendering, and then being present to whatever's going on, and allowing yourself to do whatever you want to do, and really almost seeing no distinction between yourself and your environment. You just, the ego doesn't get in, the sense of self doesn't get in, you just do what you do. And people forget that, you know, people who are exceptionally successful or powerful or exceptional in any area are very, very rarely focused on themselves. In fact, it pretty much doesn't happen. Maybe before or afterwards they're like reviewing what they did, but during those moments of greatness, whether it's, you know, in the boardroom or on the painting the canvas or playing the music or playing the sports or doing the accounts or whatever it is that, you know, infuses you or inspires you, that brings you close to your own personal greatness, you're not thinking about yourself. In fact, you're not thinking about anything, you're just doing what you do. So obviously if you're like very depressed and very low on energy and your health's very bad, it's very hard to just flip yourself into that state immediately. So you want to start off with doing the things that we talked about, you know, organising your health in the kind of system that I talked about, getting your input sorted out, so making sure you've got positivity and some helpful challenge coming in. But then the next thing is to look at how are you acting towards the world.
Okay, yeah, okay. That's really good actually. So sometimes you can get into it and you're like, wow, yeah, it's all happening, and you generally only realise that afterwards, right? Because you're just doing.
Yep.
And then something knocks you off your perch and suddenly you're not in that state anymore. So what's the best way to get back into it again?
To intend it, which sounds a little bit vague, but I'd say, so the most simple in the moment method is just to take a deep breath and intend to be aware of your environment again.
Yeah, okay.
Also, more practical tips, try and remove any kind of distractions. You know, it's very hard to be present in the moment if you've got all these tweets and emails and everything coming at you from every direction.
But that might be your environment, right?
Absolutely, yeah. So it does depend on what you're doing. But if you've completely lost track, what I'm saying is to get back to simplicity.
Okay,
So to get back to emptiness as much as possible in terms of any input or stimulus around you. And then, so if you do work, I don't know, in a like as a trader, then yeah, you've got constant bombarding information coming in from everywhere. But just maybe go outside for 2 minutes, take a deep breath, reduce the amount of input that's coming in, and then go back into the madness, and you might get back into the flow a lot more easily.
Okay.
But if you're just continually bombarded with input from all directions, a lot of which is potentially distracting, then it's very hard to get back in the flow. So even if your flow is like with a lot of distraction around you, still just that moment of peace and serenity and emptiness, I guess, that's really helpful.
Okay, well that's good, yeah, go and hide in a cupboard for a minute. Yeah.
Especially going outside. But yeah, cupboard, coffin.
Whatever you got. Okay, yeah. And outside, why is outside particularly helpful?
Well, from a practical point of view, getting fresh air, which is going to help to...
Right, the importance of breathing, yeah.
Yeah, oxygenate your system and energise you.
Okay, so we've got what's coming into you and we've got what's going out of you, ish, yeah? Or is there more of what you're giving out?
I think that's the best place to start, presence, yeah.
Yeah, presence, okay. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense to me. Any other things?
Yeah, I guess I'll just finish with this one, because a lot of what we've talked about so far all comes with a presupposition, which probably most people watching haven't got. I know it's a presupposition which I didn't have most of my life. Excuse me. And that's the idea that we are actually responsible for the way that we feel. Because all the advice so far has been like, basically, you need to do this in order to feel a certain way, you need to do that to feel a certain way. Most people, most of the time, they feel as if the way that they feel is not under their control. Like they are a victim of something else doing something to them, and therefore they feel anything other than passionate and enthusiastic and joyful.
Right, so this is the fundamentals then.
This is the fundamental thing, which I'm just going over now we've talked about all the ways, to just say, okay, now if you already are aware that you're responsible for how you feel and what you do in the world, then you can take everything I just said and run with it, and you'll have an incredibly good time. But if you're a bit confused right now and you don't really understand what's going on, that's probably because you're not aware of this fundamental precept, which is you're actually responsible for how you feel. Now, even if you are aware of that, even if you've heard it 100 times before, even if you've read many a New Age book and seen things like I create my own reality and all the rest of it, you probably still don't really live it, because most people don't. Just the chances are that you don't live it. Like, it's something that's in here, it's something that in your head you believe, but it's something that you don't yet feel in your heart and in your gut. So that's really what we want to do. We want to make that real in our heart and our gut. And the only way we can really convince ourselves at that level is not by telling ourselves it's the case, it's by showing ourselves. So if you have this idea of other people, other things make me stressed, rather than I respond to this given situation by getting stressed, another person might not.
Yeah.
Because they're coming from a different place. If you have this basic idea it's other things that do it to me, rather than I basically do it to myself because of programming that I have, then just telling yourself, or someone saying to you, like me saying to you, actually, it's your response to the situation, not the situation, won't help. Or reading it in a book or hearing it from anyone else won't help. But if you prove to yourself that's the case, so in this example, maybe with a breathing technique. So you do a very simple breathing technique, maybe check out my other stuff to find out exactly what to do. And then you go into the same situation, which maybe yesterday was causing you a vast amount of stress, today it isn't causing you stress. And just pay attention and notice, today that doesn't bother me so much. Yesterday it bothered me hugely. What's the difference? And it's something, is it something out there again? Is it my, is it my astrology? Is it my sun sign? Is it... no, it's you. You made a difference. You changed something in yourself, and as a result of it, you feel differently. You respond to the same situation differently. The very same situation makes you feel a different way, because actually you are in charge of how you feel.
And that's actually awesome. It can seem a little bit, I remember, it can seem like a responsibility you don't want. Well, I much prefer to be a victim of it and just have things happen to me, but actually it's fantastic power if you can kind of grasp it and run with it and really acknowledge that. Because whether you acknowledge it or not, it's still the case, right?
Yeah.
So whether you choose to have a bad time or a good time, It's just a choice.
Yep.
And it's not like, oh, I'm choosing to have a bad time. It's like, I'm choosing not to realise that I have a choice here.
Exactly.
As opposed to not making a choice. You always make a choice.
We have to understand that our default position is to feel like we are a victim to our environment. By default, I mean that's how we're automatically going to be, unless we create ourselves being in a new way. If anyone watching this right now with that same objection that I had, I'm sure you had, Kerenza, of, oh, you don't understand, my life's really bad, da, da, da. You know, check out some of the stories of people who've been through the most horrendous things, like Nelson Mandela, who was in jail for 38 years and never once felt imprisoned. Never once felt anything other than free. Never once felt anything other than powerful. You know, how did he manage that? It wasn't his outside environment. It wasn't even his input, because all he had all day is like a cold jail cell and guards, you know, giving him grief. You know, it was only his choice to maintain, so the words in his own head, feeling good about it. How about, you know, the people who've been in concentration camps and have, you know, kept themselves in that incredible positive mind frame, so that while everyone else around them faltered and died, they, you know, survived and they got out. I don't remember enough of the details to reel off all these stories, but I've heard so many of them, and it's really good to hear those and inspire yourself to remember that no matter what, it is possible to feel positive, and it is possible to feel good about life. Okay, no matter how bad your external environment is. Now, you shouldn't need to create a bad external environment to prove that to yourself. Really work to improve your external environment as quickly as possible. Work to improve the input that you can get. You know, don't prove to yourself you can be positive despite being surrounded by negative people. Get around positive people, right? So we're not saying to do that.
Not harder. Yeah.
But no matter where you're starting from while you're watching this right now, it is possible to get on the road to feeling really good about life, feeling really good about yourself, and feeling really good about what you do.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I had a test of this actually a little while ago, because I started to get really involved with health again, which was fantastic, and I was starting to feel really good, and I was starting to feel like there was kind of a spark of hope, and, you know, all these things, and it was like, yes. And then kind of the platform that I'd sort of built all these hopes and dreams on kind of disappeared. So it was one of those moments where, okay, do I sink or swim, really? Am I just going to throw in the towel and think, right, that's it, I'm not going to have the support, I'm not going to have it surrounding me, I'm not going to have it on my mind, and therefore I'll just go back to how it was, I'll just start smoking and eating rubbish and just completely crumble? Or am I going to do something else with it? And my temptation was certainly to just crumble, but I decided to kind of test this whole theory. Okay, you can choose what you take from an experience, you know, so okay, I'm not going to choose that route, I'm going to choose something else, and I'm, you know, going to find, not just like find the positive, because that kind of can feel really patronising and really kind of like, well, if you were in my shoes, you know, trying to find the positive, it can feel kind of insulting. So that's not really what it was, but how am I going to empower myself through this, you know, to create my life to be even better than it was with that platform? What incredible thing can I build now that's going to support me, you know? And yeah, I think that's often where kind of the best of you comes from. You know, I'm sure when Steve got fired from his own company, he didn't think, oh, this is a blessing, you know, but... No,
you probably won't. I'll show those, you know, swear words.
Yeah. And created something amazing from it. So yeah, those moments help. I do think so. If you choose to let them.
I think you used a key word there, Kerenza, which is really create. You know, you either have a choice to feel as if you are a victim of the external reality, or even, you know, your internal self, like your biology or your genetics or your traumas, whatever you might blame for the way that your life isn't working for you right now. Or you can choose to create things and create yourself the way that you want to be. And it's a really simple choice. And I'd say that's the kind of crux of having a life of passion, enthusiasm that's ongoing. Because that initial spark of passion for something isn't really something that you can create, I don't think. It's something that is something beyond you. You know, you can't force yourself to like or love something or someone that you fundamentally don't. But you can, once it's there, very easily allow it to peter out and go back to nothing in by continuing with victim psychology, Or you can create that becomes like a huge force for good in your life by keeping passionate about it and keeping your health good so that your body's able to feel good about things, rather than say if your serotonin and your dopamine go low, you just can't feel good about anything, you know, so you need to keep those physical elements going. And then all the stuff that we talked about, you know, not letting yourself get so dragged into it that you stop being present, or you stop being focused in your heart and your gut to some degree, or all the stuff we talked about.
Okay, that's really good. One final thing.
Mm-hmm.
So there are days when there are things that I know that if I do, I will feel good for doing them, right? And most of the time, it's a pleasure and a joy to do them. Mm-hmm. And then some days, it's just a real struggle, and I feel rubbish because I didn't do them. And I know that the reason I feel rubbish is because I didn't do them. And I know even in the moment when I'm not doing them, that that's the effect that it's going to have. And yet sometimes I just can't win that battle. Mm. What would you recommend in that situation? Because I'm sure I can't be the only one who feels that.
That's a great question. There's a couple of different approaches to that, at least. I think of two off the top of my head. I'll talk about the one that's the deepest though, because I think it's probably the most relevant. A lot of that is to do with our own feeling about what we deserve, or what we're entitled to. We have, Tony Robbins described it kind of like a thermostat, and whenever our life becomes lower than our expectations of what we deserve, we suddenly go into like an alarm mode and we start to do things to improve our life situation.
Okay.
But then conversely, whenever our life situation becomes better than we think we deserve, so outside of the thermostat range again, the thermostat kind of kicks in and we start sabotaging things to bring us back to a level of what we believe we deserve.
That's rubbish.
It is a shame that happens. Yeah. So when we become aware of that mechanism going on, and that might not be the only reason, okay? There might be other reasons. There might be that you just simply haven't learned to organise yourself, or you haven't learned to organise your mind, or you haven't learned how to get into good habits. But I'll just assume that you've done all that good stuff already and it's still not working for you. If that's the case, you're really going to need to do a bit of self-work, I would say, a bit of self-inquiry, and look at what your beliefs about yourself are, and look at what your greatest fears are. And most people's greatest fears boil down to some version of I won't be loved, or I'm not enough. And you might find that whatever area you want success in, it's kind of triggering one of those fears to come up. So if you're talking about health at the moment, there might be some connection made, this is just an example, probably isn't true for you, Kerenza, that if I become too healthy, then everyone else is not going to like me as much anymore, because they're going to see me as being, you know, different to them, or weird, or whatever it might be. So then I'll lose the love of people, and because I'm already deathly afraid of losing the love of people, I'd rather bring myself back to the average level of health that everyone else around me has, so that I can keep having that connection with them and that love with them, as an example.
Sure.
Another example might be, you know, I feel that I'm not enough, and therefore if I start to feel like I'm bursting full of an abundance of joy and vitality, then that fundamental belief about myself gets shattered. Yeah. And the sad truth about human beings, and it's only sad if we don't use it to our advantage, is that we would do almost anything to stay consistent with our identity, which is our beliefs about ourselves. Sure. So if you have a belief about yourself, which is I'm not good enough, then you're going to do whatever it takes to reinforce that. And if your definition of success is being wealthy, then you'll do whatever it takes to sabotage that, so you can feel like you're not good enough, because that's what you believe about yourself. If you believe that success is being healthy, then you'll do whatever it takes to sabotage that to the degree that fits in with your belief about yourself. So it's really looking at those very deeply held identity beliefs. And first of all, just becoming aware of them, without all the garbage that comes with it necessarily, not about, oh, and this was because this person did this to me or any of that. I mean, that can be interesting, but it's not really relevant. Just looking at what those beliefs actually are, and then looking at creating new beliefs and inputting those. And there are various different techniques for that. There's NLP and hypnosis and conditioning and affirmations and all kinds of crazy stuff, which is a lot more deep than that, even if that doesn't work, and that's something we can talk about another time maybe, but at the most basic level, finding out what beliefs you have about yourself on an identity level, and you might be surprised. I remember, I'm not going to get too personal here, but I remember there was one I had last year which I rooted out with the help of a coach, and because they managed to bring that out of me, my success in that area completely changed. But I didn't even realise I had that belief. It was such a deeply held belief, and on the surface it seemed as if I had the opposite belief, and it wasn't until I was actually pushed and again challenged, which goes back to the challenge thing, that belief actually came out, and I was able to see it for what it was and then let go of it and create a new belief. So I'd say that's probably the underlying cause of it all, beyond any techniques or strategies.
Okay, so that's one of those things that, depending on your energy level and your attitude, that can be a really great thing or a really bad thing. You know, you can see it as, oh well, I'm never going to change then and my life's just stuck in this, or wow, that's fantastic, if I change my beliefs then my whole being is just going to make me stick to those.
Absolutely.
So fantastic, I could just better change those then. Yeah, okay, so that's helpful. So have you got any idea of where to kind of get information for that, or is that just like have a look on the internet and see what you find?
Well, deep core level beliefs. Well, yeah, the approaches that I mentioned, you know, like NLP. A lot of NLP is kind of suspect to me in this day and age, but the original inventors of it, John Grinder and what's his name, Richard Bandler, are a great place to start. Anthony Robbins again, like we talked about. Any kind of conditioning work. Yeah, I don't know. Obviously, if you like my kind of style, health mastery coaching, that's part of what we do. You know, we get really deep, and if there is need to, well, basically the commitment of health mastery coaching is whatever it takes to get you to that point of health mastery, we're going to do it. So it means changing you at an identity level, and of course that's what we're going to do. But there are many, many people who I'm friends with even, who work in that kind of level, like Shazzy, like Matthew Armstrong. So yeah, whoever it is that really resonates with you, basically, who knows what we're talking about here right now, who if you say to them, I need to make a core identity level change, they go, oh no problem, come this way, then they're the kind of people you want to be talking to.
Okay, great. Okay, superb. Yeah, I can see how that would help, because that's often what, like, where I stumble. Because I know these things, I know what works, I know how to get myself into that state, and yet I don't, and I find it really hard to make myself say. That's very helpful, thank you.
My pleasure.
Well, excellent. Any final thoughts, or are we...
I think that's excellent. I think we blasted people with it a lot. Hope you enjoyed it. So,
well, thank you so much. It's been fantastic to chat with you.
Excellent. Thank you, Kerenza. You too.
We'll see you again.
Thanks for watching.